my magazine is mission driven. Um, my job is to reconnect people to their local food shed and to raise awareness about local foods, locally grown foods, farming, agriculture in our particular area, and all of the ways that it's endangered, as well as all of the ways that it is growing and sort of coming back again. We are losing farms and farmers at an alarming rate in this country, and what people don't realize is that it jeopardizes our entire food system by not having local farms, by not having local agriculture. So I guess, just in terms of green jobs, I guess that what I do just in terms of educating people and entertaining people about what's happening in their local community around food, around water, is to help raise awareness and get them excited and more interested in choosing local. So, Edible Santa Fe being about food and local food, I relate to place through food. The way for me to feel at home is to sort of get in touch with the kinds of foods that are eaten and grown here. So in terms of what we do in the magazine, this was our last holiday issue, and red and green is called Christmas here. Red and green chili is called Christmas. So our cover was red and green chili. And in the magazine I get to do all kinds of things. I love writers and I love food, so I get to talk to a lot of writers about food. And I also do a column called What's Fresh, What's Local, or Cooking Fresh, and where I focus on what's available in the farmer's market in any given season, and I do recipes around whatever's fresh in the farmer's market. We also do edible traditions, so we look at traditions in people's families or in people's culture, particularly in New Mexico, and talk about different food traditions and cultural traditions around food. So as much as I've spent my life thinking about menus and thinking about food and thinking about ethnic menus and not repeating the same thing twice, this is very much what I do in the magazine every season. We look at different foods, we can profile a different food, we can hone in and focus on, let's see, for example, for our fall issue this year, we did a whole thing on Cooking Fresh on pumpkin and squash. So we can hone in on one particular fruit or vegetable or item that's grown in that season. We also did a piece on Picary's Pueblo and their bison program, because bison is an indigenous food here, and it's also showing up more and more on people's plates here in New Mexico and in restaurants and in farmers markets. So it's kind of the same thing I've always done. I just get to talk about it a lot more and educate people, and really, instead of serving them a plate of bison with a side of roasted pumpkin, I actually get to give people a little more background and history on who's growing it, the season that it's grown in, all the different ways you can use it, how to save the seeds, how to grow it themselves. So in that way it's kind of an expanded version of what I've always done. So in addition to the magazine, one of the things I do is a podcast. It's an audio podcast, so I talk to people all over the planet, and the podcast tends to have a much more global audience. It's very low tech. Anybody can do a podcast. I always wanted to be in food, and when I was 5 years old, my mother sent me up for a nap, and I was a bad napper, but I was a really good daydreamer. So I had just learned what a computer was, and I had some daydream about growing up to do something with food and computers. So I didn't come to publishing right away. I was a private chef for about 25 years, and I had a really high-profile clientele. I worked for Steven Spielberg for a long time, and I cooked for Martha Stewart, and I cooked for Bill Clinton, and so lots and lots of really famous people. And I will also add that I did not go to culinary school. In fact, I didn't finish college. I needed to go to work. I couldn't afford to go to college, and so I started cooking. And I learned about food at my mother's side and my grandmother's side and in their kitchens, and I read voraciously and everything I could get my hands on, and if there was something I didn't know how to do, there was a book in the library to tell me how to do it. So it was kind of a circuitous route, but I had a very successful career as a private chef, and in New York and California, and it took me all over the world. And when I came to Santa Fe, I was at a place in my life where I realized I wanted to do something else and give something back in a much bigger way. And that's when I discovered edibles and realized that this was very in line with where I wanted to go with my life and my mission. So that's kind of how I got started. This is my office, and I get to bring my dogs to work. It's great when you work for yourself because you can make all the rules. You're the boss. So I work a lot at home, but these are my dogs, Whiskey and Bandit, and they're in the office with me today before we go to the dog park. Don't be afraid to take chances. Don't be afraid to stray from the pack and forge your own path. I've always done that, and it's been scary at times, but really rewarding. Don't be afraid to think outside the box, and especially the one big thing that I want to tell you is that don't be afraid to follow your passion, because it can take you places that you've never imagined. I never imagined in a million years that I would be here.